What's up, Can Crushers? Welcome to another episode of the Crushing Cans Podcast Pick'em Show. Tonight on tap for you, we've got UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Ige.
Let's jump into it.
Before we get into this, make sure you go to our page, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. That way you can make sure you get notifications anytime we have a new video coming out fresh for y'all.
Don't forget to comment as well.
Yeah. Comment your picks. Let us know what's up.
Engage with us in conversation. We want to hear what you're doing. Also, don't forget to join our group on Tapology.com where all of our picks will be made and we'll be competing to see who is the best in the group. For the last 5 weeks, it's been one of our family. It's been Thomas.
Yeah, it's been a Thomas. So nobody's knocked us off yet.
I've got two wins. You've got 2 wins. And our sister, who makes her picks 20 minutes beforehand, has a win.
Yeah.
So join our group. Tapology.com. We'll post the link in the description.
Yep. You can search us as well. It's just the Crushing Cans Podcast if you go to the group search.
Crushing Cans Podcast. No the in the front.
Yeah, no the.
All right.
Either way.
Let's jump into our picks. Man. So let's start with the first fight. For the first fight of the night, we have Jorge Gonzalez versus Kenneth Berg at 205 pounds. Tell me what you think about this fight.
This fight's an interesting one. I really don't know that either of these guys deserve a shot in the UFC based on what I've seen. I think Berg has a little bit more popularity than Jorge there, just based off of, he's a knockout artist. He comes in there.
He's been given
he's
a couple
a bull.
opportunities.
Yeah, he's been given some opportunities. Jorge's, he's kind of a big deal coming out of Mexico, and he's kind of a knockout artist too.
So let's talk a little bit about those guys and their records a little bit. So Jorge Gonzalez, he's 16-4. He's 6 feet tall. He's also 36 years old, so he's the older guy. He's making his UFC debut, but he is also coming off of a five-win streak with 5 wins by knockout.
Yep.
So let's look over at Kenneth Berg. Kenneth Berg is 8-0, but that doesn't include his losses on The Ultimate Fighter because that's an exhibition match. And he also lost on Dana White's Contender Series, but that match was overturned to a no contest because the opponent that he faced ended up testing positive for steroids.
Yep.
So he does have a couple of losses. They're just not on his record. It's every chance that he's had to get into the UFC, though. He's come up short.
He's kind of come up short there.
Real short.
So when it comes to both these guys, man, I was watching a few of their fights, and one thing I noticed about Jorge is he's really flat on his feet, and he just kind of walks forward and he just wings his punches out there.
Yeah.
He's just looking to knock you out. That's really about it.
He puts his chin down.
Yeah.
He puts his chin down and he just kind of takes some punches. Like I wrote here, he doesn't move his head. He walks straight forward.
He doesn't move his head at all.
He's willing to take a punch to give a punch. He does have good power.
He has good power. He's only been out of the first round one time in his entire career.
Yeah, that's kind of
crazy. And it was a loss. It was a decision loss.
Yep.
To Nasrudinov.
I didn't put the name down, but
yeah, I've got that one there, and that's but so if you can get it to the ground, it looks like that's his weakness. He was easily controlled on the ground.
I would think that that's both their weaknesses.
Yeah. He has a few submission victories, but that's when he's on top, like when he lands on top. Like Jorge, Kenneth has only been out of the first round once. You already mentioned his loss to Eric Spicely on Tough 23. One thing that I did like about...
It was a first-round loss.
First-round loss, yep. One thing that I did like about Berg, though, is he seems to be lighter on his feet, and he throws much cleaner punches. Like, his boxing is much cleaner.
I would agree. I thought that his boxing was cleaner, and I also think that he does a pretty good job when he's on top.
He does. He likes to pull guard, though, a lot, too, from what I noticed.
I don't feel like he's very good on bottom.
I don't know that he's very good on bottom, but I've seen him pull guard when going for some guillotines and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's because he's not really trying to pull guard. He's trying to lock in those submissions.
Oh, yeah.
He gets a lot. He does have submissions. I think he has 5 submissions, if I remember.
Yeah, he's got a few submission victories on there.
And a lot of them are guillotine choke, Yeah. So, but it's all power. It's not technique. And he's a really big guy. He's got an athletic body. His striking is technical.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like, though, that he really likes to take a punch himself.
No. I think
and that's where he starts shooting and trying to get it to the ground. Yeah. And if he can overpower the guy on the ground, he does a good job on top.
Yeah. I think he's not going to want to stand with Jorge. Jorge can take a punch.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, the dude can take a punch.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to get broken. He seems to just keep walking forward. He's like a zombie walking forward.
Yeah, he just plods forward and swings. So I think the path to victory for Berg here is to go take this to the ground. And where, like I said, I don't think that Jorge is very good at all.
Yeah.
So I've got Berg actually winning this fight with a first-round submission. Where are we at with you?
Wow. So we are way off on this. So what I think is going to happen, just like you were talking about, Jorge Gonzalez doesn't back up. Nope. I think that he's gonna be able to wear down Kenneth Berg, and he's gonna tire him out, and he's gonna make Kenneth Berg put himself in a situation where he's gonna quit on himself. And I think that that's going to happen just simply because of the pressure that Jorge Gonzalez is going to put on him from the beginning. You know, when we look at Kenneth Berg, when he gets put in bad positions, he just kind of gives up. Those submissions get thrown on. He doesn't really do much to stop them, and he's just out. When he's in bad positions and things start going the wrong way for him, he just sits there. And I have a feeling that he's going to shut down, and it's going to be in the third round. Jorge Gonzalez is going to wear him down and then finish him by TKO in round 3.
It's very, very possible. So it's interesting. Both these guys making their UFC debut, so that's going to be a fun one to watch.
It's going to be fun.
Let's move on to fight number 2.
So let's move on to the next fight. The next fight we have Jack Shore versus Aaron Phillips. Let's talk a little bit about those guys real quick. Jack Shore, he's 25 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall, and he's 12-0, including a win over former UFC fighter Vaughn Lee. And he's currently 1-0 in the UFC with the win over Nolan Hernandez. Mm-hmm. And then we look at Aaron Phillips. Aaron Phillips is 30 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall. He's 12-3. He made his UFC debut back in 2014. He's 0-2 in the UFC, but currently he's on a 5-fight win streak since 2018. What do you think about these guys?
Well, this is going to be an interesting fight again. You know, we are in Abu Dhabi, Fight Island, Yas Island there. And Aaron's stepping in on short notice. Mm-hmm. So after, Anderson Dos Santos tested positive for COVID, so he got pulled from the card. One thing I did notice is that this is Aaron's second stint in the UFC.
Yep.
You know, he previously went 0-2 in the UFC against Sam Cecilia and Matt Hobar. Mm-hmm. So he's coming back on short notice. Now, short notice fights, I usually wouldn't give too much thought into that, but they are going to Fight Island, and they're going to be fighting in the morning again.
Yep.
So that takes some impact, and that kind of plays into where I made my pick this week. Last week, I didn't really think of that too much when I was making my picks, and I'm like, oh, dude, I totally forgot they were fighting at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Depending on what your
order
fight
on
is.
The card too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's going to take some there. But one thing I noticed is that you know, he can defend the takedown, defends pretty well off his back, and he has.
So is that Aaron Phillips?
Yeah, Aaron Phillips has some. He can defend the takedown there, man. I think he has.
He was a high school wrestler, so
he was a high school wrestler.
He should be able to defend against some takedowns.
Yeah, and I mean, he has power in his punches, and he has really nice kicks. Mm-hmm. I like the kicks that I saw from him.
And the kicks come from the fact that he's also a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo.
There you go.
So
the one thing I did notice though is Jack Shore.
Yep.
Is relentless.
He's a monster.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
The guy comes in and he doesn't stop, and you know what he's gonna do as soon as that bell rings. He's gonna come and take you down.
Well, he might. He
likes going for that takedown.
He likes to come in and get the takedown, but you also have to remember he's also a former Welsh boxing junior champion, right? Yep. So he's the former Cage Warriors bantamweight champion as well. So he's got a ton of experience. He's comfortable on his feet. He's a kickboxing black belt.
He averages 5 takedowns per fight. He's going to get it down. I think he's going to get it down.
I think in the long run, that's what he's looking to do is take him down. I don't know if it's going to come right away at the beginning. Maybe.
I think so.
You do see a lot of them right from the very beginning.
But the way when you watch his fights is what I'm saying. He comes in and he'll throw like a quick overhand right.
Yeah.
And ducks underneath just to get you to raise your arms up. It's not even like a real punch. He just brings it over the top, gets you to pick your arms up to block, and then he shoots under instantly for that double.
And Jack Shore, this guy is like a true mixed martial artist, and it runs in the family. But he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt.
Yeah.
And he's a combat jiu-jitsu black belt on top of that. His dad is actually his name is Richard Shore. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt.
Yeah. So martial arts just runs in the family with this guy.
And he also has his dad has multiple different black belts as well. He competed as an amateur and a professional fighter before all this as well. So like you were saying, like in my notes, I say he throws a lot of kicks. Yep. He mixes in his double leg really nicely. He stops on his knees a little bit, and that's what makes it hard for him to finish some of those takedowns. But the bottom line is he's comfortable wherever he's at, so he's okay with stopping on his knees. That doesn't bother him.
So how'd you pick this fight?
Well, given the fact that Aaron Phillips is coming in on short notice, he's coming down to bantamweight from featherweight. I feel like he's got a strength disadvantage. I think Jack Shore's just going to be too much for him, and he's going to submit it in the second round.
Yeah, we're right on the same page there because I've got Jack Shore with a round 1 submission.
All right.
I don't think Phillips is ready. He's not going to be able to stop Jack Shore coming in. Jack Shore is too strong. Yep. Jack Shore is going to get the takedown early, and I think Jack Shore is just going to finish it with a round 1 submission.
All right. I like it. All right, so let's move on to the next fight. The next fight is Diana Belbita versus Liana Jojua. So Diana Belbita, she's 24 years old. She's 5'6", and she's 13-5 right now. She lost her UFC debut to Molly McCann, who fights later on the card. Yep. She lost to her by decision. And let's talk about Liana Jojua. Liana Jojua is 25 years old. She's 5 feet 4 inches tall. She's 7-3, and she also lost her UFC debut, but she was fighting Sarah Morris, who's pretty tough. She lost by KO in round 3. Tell me what you think about these girls.
This fight, I think it's an interesting one for me because I watched some of Jojua's fights, and she seems to be really, really hyped. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't too impressed with what I saw. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Like you said, both girls are coming off losses in their UFC debut. So this is the second fight for both of them. One thing I did note, Jojua, she does have good kicks. She doesn't really seem to utilize it too much. She likes to seem to go to the ground. Mm-hmm. She gets some submission wins there. She just doesn't put a lot of high output with her striking. Kind of similar to Vanessa Mello in terms of output volume. Like, she just doesn't really strike a lot.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I think she's too small for the 135ers in the UFC. When I watched that fight versus Sarah Morris, I think it was, Morris just looked bigger and stronger than Jojua. So she definitely showed she can be controlled versus those bigger 135 girls.
All right.
Belbita, though, man, I actually liked what I saw from her. Mm-hmm. She showed some pretty good boxing. She couldn't really stop McCann's double leg.
She didn't seem to have the power, but she had the volume.
Yeah, she had the volume and output. She was
hitting.
Tough.
She was hitting.
That fight went to a decision.
Hey, plus, I think she has cool hair. I love the way her hair looks when she's got it set up.
She has a chin because Molly hit her with some tough shots and
strikes.
Pummeled her on the ground there too a little bit, but she was able to do there. I think if it goes to the ground, I think that Jojua will win the fight. I think she's better on the ground, but I don't think it's going to go to the ground.
Oh, man.
I've got Belbita winning by a decision. Where are you at?
Well, before I get into that, so I want to talk a little bit more about these girls. According to Belbita, I messed up her name there. According to Belbita, she's a multiple-time Kempo national champion, European champion, and a world champion. Mm-hmm. This is the claim she makes. She's also got a large fan following because she's been on TV shows. So she's been on Survivor. She's been on this other show called Exalta.
Did not know she was on Survivor. That's pretty cool.
Or Exatlon, which is similar to Survivor. Okay. She's been on Survivor, actually. But the other one, she was in Exatlon Mexico and Exatlon Romania. And then she was on another show called Firma Ventilator or something like that.
I don't know. Never heard of it.
But, so as far as the international scene right there, she's probably got a large fan population or fan popularity based on the fact that she's got a large TV show or she's got a lot of television
celebrity out there.
So she's got a little bit of celebrity to her. So there's going to be people tuning in for her on top of the fact that she's got her mixed martial arts credentials. I completely disagree with you about Liana Jojua, though. I feel like she is the ultimate can crusher. I don't think she deserves to be in the UFC right now, to be honest. I looked at a lot of the fighters that she was fighting. They weren't any good.
She did okay against Morris, though. I mean, Morris was tough, and in that third round, Jojua won that third round versus Morris.
But, you know what? Just because you get to fight a higher caliber fighter and look good, look decent a little bit later, doesn't mean that you're not a can crusher.
Yeah, I agreed she's overhyped, but I think she does have some skill on the ground.
She's my can crusher pick for the night right now at this point. I have Diana Belbita by decision. That gives us the same pick.
Yeah. So, I think just Belbita's better everywhere. Except, I think on the ground, I do think Jojua does have some better stuff, but it depends.
When you're fighting 0-1 fighters or 0-0 fighters, a whole bunch, it's hard to really see how good you are.
Yeah.
And that's what she's fought.
And Belbita, it's going to depend on how strong Belbita looks against her, too. Because if Belbita's stronger than her, she'll probably be okay on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on to the next fight. This is at 145 pounds. It's Jared Gordon versus Chris Fishgold. Jared Gordon is 15-4. He's 31 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall, and he's 3-3 in the UFC right now. Chris Fishgold is 18-3-1. He's 28 years old. He's 5 feet 5 inches tall, and he's 1-2 in the UFC with a submission win over Daniel Tamer. Tell me how you feel about these guys.
I actually watched the Daniel Tamer fight, and I was actually kind of impressed because Tamer was able to get on top in that fight, which was really weird. But he was able to get on top and control that fight. But
out of strength.
Yeah. So from one thing that I saw, Chris is really, really strong. He's a BJJ black belt, and he competed as a professional kickboxer. So that tells you right away he's well-rounded. He's going to be pretty comfortable anywhere.
Yep.
One thing, the Amir Khani fight, it was pretty competitive, and from what I saw, it was back and forth. The one thing that I did notice, though, is Amir Khani just looked like he was worlds ahead of Fishgold on the ground. Yeah. Which is weird, because given, there's levels to this shit when you're talking about black belts in jiu-jitsu. And Amir Khani's... He's world class, man.
So Amir Khan is a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well as Chris Fishgold.
Yeah, Chris Fishgold's a BJJ black belt, which is why I was kind of, when we talked about that last fight on the last card that we watched, 251, we had 2 black belts going at it, and I thought for sure that was Amir Khani and Danny Henry, I think, right?
Yeah.
I thought for sure we were going to get a decision or
same,
a really
same
fun,
guy
really
that
fun.
Same guy that submitted Fishgold.
Yeah, same thing. I thought it was going to be really fun, but Amir Khani came out and got it done right away, choked him out.
Yep.
And then against Fishgold, he also got it done pretty well. I mean, it was a close fight for the first round there, but
yeah, Fishgold also lost to Calvin Kattar as well, though.
He did.
And Calvin Cater's headlining the event tonight.
That's the one thing I think Fishgold's fought the tougher opponents.
I would agree with that.
One thing that I did notice is that he preferred to get it down on the ground, so he's going to be comfortable on the ground. I think even though he's a professional kickboxer, I think he prefers it on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, you got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I would assume that you're feeling comfortable there. Chris Fishgold is also a 3-time Cage Warriors champion.
Yeah.
So he won that belt. He's well-rounded, trains in wrestling. He trains in Muay Thai. He works on his jiu-jitsu. He also has very similar ground and pound to the Team Quest guys.
Yes,
he sits in the guard, and he just throws those punches. It's pretty cool to see because a lot of these people today, they work so hard on pass and guard and stuff before they throw the punches. And the old Team Quest style, just sit in the guard and just throw punches from there.
Yeah.
That's what you get from Chris Fishgold. It's pretty fun to watch. Chris Fishgold has 13 wins by submission.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that tells you right away he's comfortable.
He's looking to take him down. He's looking to take him down.
When it comes to Jared, though, he's 3-3 now in the UFC.
3-3 in the UFC.
His last loss was coming to Charles Oliveira by knockout, though.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's coming off a knockout loss right there.
And when he lost to he got knocked out in all 3 of his losses in the UFC.
Yep.
When he lost to Diego Ferreira, though, Diego Ferreira kicked him in the nuts like 2 or 3 times in a row. And was hitting him with some illegal shots. That's gonna play into your game because Dana White came out with that statistic a long time ago, talking about how almost every single time someone gets kicked in the nuts in the UFC, they don't come back to win the fight. So with that Diego Ferreira fight, that might have played into it a little bit.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think it's good to note though that Gordon is a BJJ brown belt.
Mm-hmm.
So, he made it into the UFC through Dana White's looking for a fight. I don't know if a lot of people know that about him.
Yep.
So he does have a fight of the night, though, against Joaquim Silva, which is...
Yeah.
Or
he lost in... So, no, it's Joaquim. It's Joaquim. Yeah.
I was going to say, I remember the fight, but...
he lost that fight, but he
myself.
dropped him in the first round.
He did.
And he was rocking him. He was looking good.
Oh, he looked real good.
Then he got clipped himself.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
That's why he got fight of the night honors, though.
Yeah, and ultimately, he does have 4 losses, and all 4 of his losses have come by knockout.
Knockout, yep.
So, even the one outside the UFC came by way of knockout. So, I mean, he's got a questionable chin.
Yeah, but I do like his story, though.
Yeah, he's got a good story.
So, he's a former drug addict. He got hooked on pills. That led to heroin. And then he actually overdosed multiple times. And at one point during an overdose, he was legally dead for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And he uses mixed martial arts as a way to stay clean and sober and to really change his life and turn it around.
And he's actually using it to try to help other people that are suffering from addiction as well.
Yeah.
He's come out and he's made that public that it's his mission to use his platform to help others
people.
that are in need right now.
So I really like his story. As far as everything else that's going on with what he's doing, I think it's great. I just feel like he's a little bit outmatched in this match.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to the ground in the first round, and Chris Fishgold's going to submit.
It was funny because I do have Fishgold by submission as well, but I've got Fishgold winning by submission in round 2.
You're
so
the opposite
those two
of
picks
me.
are completely opposite.
Well,
But
I just see this going down in the first round.
I think he's tough, man. I think he's still tough.
Well, even because
I think he might be able to keep it up for the first round, but I think ultimately Fishgold's going to get him down and get it done in the second round.
the thing that happens is when he gets hit and he's not having success on the feet, he likes to shoot in. So Gordon's going to shoot in and try to take him down in the first round after he gets hit a little bit.
But he is a BJJ brown belt too.
He is,
remember,
which
so
is
he's
what's
not-
going to make him feel comfortable.
Yeah, could.
I mean, like I said, though, I just feel like he's a little bit behind.
He's definitely behind.
I feel like he's behind.
But I think he's going to hang in there in that first round. I think it might start out really slow, to be honest, because both guys are going to come in. They're going to feel each other out.
But like you
And then
said,
we'll see.
you think Fishgold's going to jump in and go for the takedown right away?
Not Fishgold. That was the other fight.
Or that was the fight before this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's
That
possible,
was,
but Fishgold does the same thing, though.
Yeah.
He comes in, throws a punch, and goes
Kind
right
of.
for the
He doesn't
takedown.
have that same one as Jack Shore, though. Jack Shore,
No, they're different fighters, but
his style
I mean,
is just so much more relentless. He's constantly going. He doesn't
I
have
don't
his
know, I don't
motor
know if it's
doesn't
more
stop.
relentless. I mean, they're both vicious. I mean, I don't know. Maybe one day they'll fight. They're close in weight,
Yeah.
so
It's going to be possible.
because that's a 45-pound fight, and the other one we're
Yeah, I think
talking
it's
about
bantamweight.
was 35, if I remember right. No,
Yeah.
35. Yeah, so not very far away from each other. There's a possibility.
I mean, there's similar fighters. To be honest, if I was picking that fight, I'd probably pick Jack Shore to win in that one too. I like Jack Shore. I just like what I saw from Jack Shore.
Well,
so.
you know what? There ain't nothing wrong with liking Jack Shore. He's a good guy to like. So he's fun.
He's going to be a fun one. Keep an eye out for Jack Shore, guys.
Let's move on to the next fight. The next fight, I believe, is Modestas Bukauskas versus Andreas Michailidis.
Yeah, Michailidis, man.
This is at 205 pounds. Modestas is 10-2. He's 6 feet 3 inches tall. He's 26 years old, and he finishes every single one of his fights. Andreas Michailidis, he's 12-3. He's 6 feet tall, same height.
Yeah.
He's 31 years old. 7 wins by knockout. Tell me what you think about this, guys.
So this one, another interesting fight because you have two strikers going in this one.
Yes.
Both guys have a lot of knockouts coming into this fight. One thing, I liked Modestas striking a little bit better than I liked Michailidis's. It just seemed a little bit overhyped for me for Michailidis, and I think Modestas just had that cleaner striking. I think he's well-rounded. He does pretty well, even against wrestlers. I've seen him get taken down multiple times in his fights, but he was always able to get back up. He gets pressured against the clinch there, against the fence in the clinch there a couple times, but he's still able to get out, control the fight, get back in, and then win.
He's also a Cage Warriors champion at 205 pounds.
So one thing that I really, really liked about him, he's a 205er and he's got tremendous cardio. And I think that's what helped him against the wrestlers that he fought, is he would
But he's
get
never
in.
gone the distance, though.
No, so the one fight I think that he went to the third round, he actually was getting controlled in the first 2 rounds with the wrestler getting taken down, but constantly getting back up and then pressured against the cage. But the wrestler actually got tired. I forgot. I should have wrote his name down. I forgot who it was. He ended up tiring out towards the third round.
I believe it.
And Bukauskas looked like he was still fresh and just picked him apart to finish that fight.
That's the same. Oh shit! Why did I forget his name? Justin Gaethje. That's the same reason Justin Gaethje doesn't want to wrestle, though, right? He came out and said, when he would wrestle, he'd wrestle
It's
a match.
exhausting for both people.
He'd say, after I do a 6-minute match, I'll step off the mat and feel like I can't walk.
Yeah, I
So I
believe
don't
it.
wrestle when I fight. I gotta conserve energy. That's him conserving energy.
Exactly.
Think about how tiring wrestling has to be if you're going to be the person who's going to come out and you're going to fight, just like Justin Gaethje does, where he's just high action from the beginning to end.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
That's him conserving energy.
Yeah, Mihailidis is also coming in on short notice. This is another guy stepping in on short notice.
Yep, that's true.
One thing that he does do, he throws power in almost everything he throws.
Every punch.
He's not
And
an
kick.
efficient striker, if that makes sense. He's looking to knock you out with everything he throws. He also
This is going to be a potential fight of the night candidate. Sorry.
could be. No, yeah.
Sorry for
it very well could be a fight of the night because, you know, I think he throws a lot of spinning kicks. He's like a big Edson Barbosa, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Kind of throws a lot of spinning stuff.
A lot of kicks.
And a lot of power in everything he throws.
Yep.
I think Edson's also more efficient, but just to try to get the spinning in there.
Edson's more experienced against tougher guys, though. You look at early Edson, though, it's very similar.
Yeah. So this was another one that's hard to pick. And then I think just Mihailidis coming in on short notice again with Abu Dhabi, fighting in the morning, not having time to acclimate and get your sleep schedule up to par. I think all that's going to play an effect.
But to counter what you're saying,
well, Mihailidis is from Greece, right?
Mihailidis is from Greece, but he's also fought in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So he has that experience.
I didn't remember. I didn't fucking take that into account.
So he does have that experience. He's light on his feet. He throws good knees in there. Like you were talking about with the striking, he mixes it up. He's very, very exciting. This fight for me, I have a feeling this fight's not going to the decision.
No, somebody's getting knocked out.
There's no way. It's a knockout's coming either
It's
1,
not
2,
going to
or
the
3. Neither of these guys care about the ground game.
It's not going to the ground.
In fact,
this is going to be a stand-up fight.
Modestus came out and said, "All I want to do is throw punches."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember which video it was or fight, but I was in the study and he said in one of them, "All I want to do is throw punches."
Yeah, it's going to be a fun fight, man.
You know,
205, someone's going to sleep.
Somebody's going to sleep.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to sleep. So who do you have going to sleep in what round?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I've got Mihailidis going to sleep in round 2.
Oh my gosh, we are off on this one.
No, dude. So my reasoning behind this is I think that he's going to come forward a lot. And I think that Bukauskas is the much cleaner striker. He has better footwork. I think he's going to be able to bounce around, just land his jab all night. Second round, he's going to land a good 1-2, and Mihailidis is going to go to sleep.
I just feel like Mihailidis has more tools. He's going to be able to stay at a longer range, and it's going to make it very hard because what Modestus is going to be looking to use is his hands, where Mihailidis uses everything, and I have a feeling he's going to be able to stand out of range of Modestus and work his kicks and work his hands. We'll find out, though.
That's why we pick him.
That's awesome, man. I like it. So somebody's going to sleep, but I got Mihailidis knocking out Modestus in round 1.
It's a tough fight, like I said. You know, it's a tough fight to pick.
Yeah.
And so don't quote us on this, man. Obviously, we're separated.
Well, you know, we do this a lot, though. You look at the last one, our undercard was very different.
And we finished pretty well. I mean, my overall, I think I'm 72% overall on my picking.
Once we got to the main card.
I won 10 fights in a row.
Yeah, neither of us lost a fight on the main card. I don't think.
I started 0-3 on the night, and then I won 10 picks in a row.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, but you know our 1v1 so far, me versus you, I've won the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's funny he didn't play me when he fucking
the last 2 weeks
didn't challenge me when he only got like 2 picks right in that one card.
The dang one card that I did horrible on. Why didn't he challenge me on that one?
Yeah, what the hell, man? Because I did really well.
I just figured I could challenge you. You know,
I had 3 cards in a row where I was in the top 100.
This Tapology.com, while I'm really liking a lot of the features on it, they definitely need to get that user experience better.
Yeah, the web page overall.
That's what it's called, UXD, right?
The UXD, user experience design.
Yeah, UXD.
But yeah, it's a good website. They can do some things to clean it up and make it easier.
There's a lot of information on it. It's just hard to figure out where to go and navigate.
We talked about it when we used to do the UFC pick'ems on the UFC website.
Yeah.
Their pick'em was actually really clean. I liked
really
it
clean.
You know, you had the fighter, you pick the fighter, you pick the round, you could pick the method.
It was easy to find.
And it was easy to see when you picked. You knew exactly who you picked and how you picked them.
Yep.
This one, it's hard because it uses arrows instead of highlights.
I don't like the
highlights
arrows.
are much more clean, especially for somebody maybe visually impaired. An arrow. And
it's just less navigation. If I'm using a phone, beep beep beep, it's annoying constantly trying to navigate.
They don't really
through.
have a mobile website.
No,
yet. Their website's not mobile friendly.
So we're huge fans of Tapology.com. We're just trying to give you
the belt ranking
suggestions
system that they have.
Yeah. So I like how you can make your own rankings.
You can make your own rankings.
There's all sorts of stuff on there that you can do that I love about Tapology.
Yeah.
To make it better for our user experience, that's all we're trying to do is just give you a little bit of advice.
Yeah, I think maybe making it so it sticks out more on the mobile format. You guys don't have a really good mobile friendly format.
Or just develop the app.
Yeah, get an app, Tapology app.
Yeah, it would be awesome. It'd be huge. I mean, unless it's out there and we're just
Yeah.
too stupid to realize it.
We'll have to-
So let's move on to the next fight. The next fight is Ricardo Ramos versus Lerone Murphy. Ricardo Ramos is 12-2. He's 24 years old. He's 5 feet 6 inches tall, and he's 5-1 in the UFC, including a win over a local guy, Journey Newsom. I said Newsom when it's Newson. And then the counterpart to that fight is Lerone Murphy, who's 8-0-1. He's 28 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall. He has 1 draw in the UFC. Tell me what you think about these guys.
So this is going to be another interesting fight. I say that a lot already, but I mean it is interesting.
Well, when you're a fight fan, these fights are interesting. You start breaking them down. You try to look at the things, the points and counterpoints.
Yeah, man, and it's one of those things. With Ramos, he's a striker, but he does have a little bit of grappling there too.
He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt.
Yeah, and I think he's pretty well rounded. And one thing I noticed is that fight with Newsom, I watched that one, and obviously we were biased. We were rooting for Newsom on there. I think Journey made his UFC debut on short notice on that fight too.
Yeah, it was
so he didn't
short
get a full
notice.
camp, but that fight went to the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And it was super competitive back and forth. Journey, being the shorter guy, had to create ways to get inside and hit him.
And he was definitely more stiff, though.
But Ramos looked really really good with his strikes. He's using his leg kicks a lot, throwing some good spinning stuff. He's got these like spinning elbows that he does, and I think that's what he knocked Newsom out with eventually.
Yeah, so the way I described his striking was loose hands and feet.
Yeah.
Like, he just kind of lets him go.
He flows. It's just fluid. But
he's not afraid of being taken down.
I think he landed, what did he land, like 3 of those spinning elbows on Journey?
Oh, I don't know. And Journey just kind of stood there and took
Yeah,
them.
the first few he took them.
Yeah.
And the one glanced like right off his chin. Otherwise, it would have put him out, I think, because it went boom.
Possibly.
I think it was in like the second round.
Journey's hard to put out because I remember when my boy Anthony Marks kneed him in the head.
Yeah.
Journey didn't go down from that.
So yeah, I mean, he's a really well-rounded, fun fighter. He's a fan fighter for sure. We've talked about fan fighters before. He's a fan fighter. Yeah. He likes to go out there and put on a show.
Yep.
I do want to see him and Journey actually fight again with Journey on a full camp. I don't know who would win that fight.
Well, I'm not even thinking about that fight right now because I think that Ricardo Ramos is looking to break in the top 15, top 10 right now.
He's on the cusp.
He's 5-1.
He's there.
He's 5-1, and this is the problem with being an exciting fighter is the UFC doesn't build you up as much when you're an exciting fighter. They use you oftentimes, and it's a tricky thing for them. Are you exciting in the fight and a good personality outside, or are you just an exciting person in the fight? If you're exciting in the fight, they're going to throw you a lot of fights where you could win a lot. And this is what we've looked at with Ricardo Ramos because they're trying to give him exciting fights to draw fans in. So he's close to the top 15, top 10. He's 5-1 in the UFC. Being exciting can be a problem. It slows you down a little bit.
It does. So when we go
We've noticed this a lot, have we not?
We have. And when we move on to Lerone Murphy, one thing I noticed about him, is he's a crafty striker.
Yeah.
Like, he throws some really weird stuff.
He likes to use his hands a lot more than his legs, though.
Yeah, but he throws it from weird places. Like, I'd say maybe awkward striker. I don't know if that's a right word. I don't know. But he's a crafty striker. I like crafty. Because it doesn't sound it doesn't sound bad.
I don't know if he's awkward.
But
it's
that's
like,
why I say crafty.
When it comes to boxing, there's lots of different styles, right? So a lot of people talk like the peekaboo style, Mike Tyson from Customoto. They say that that's technically a bad style for you to use, right? It's good for them,
I think,
but not for everyone.
Yeah, and also with Murphy, in his fight versus Tukagov, Tukagov was able to take it down and control Murphy a lot, but Murphy showed he's not a slouch on the ground. He kept constantly attacking for submissions while he was off his back.
Yep.
And he was able to get up. So it's going to be interesting if Ramos does decide to go down because I think they might be pretty evenly matched, even though I'm not sure if Murphy has the credentials that Ramos has in terms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu belts. But Murphy looked like he was no slouch, especially against Tukagov, who's no slouch on the ground.
So one thing that I noticed about Lerone Murphy is that he's never finished anybody outside of the first round. So he's 8-0-1. He has 3 decision victories, which is good. But if he's gonna knock you out, it's gonna be in the first round. Yep. He's gonna come heavy and hard in the first round, try to finish you. If it doesn't work, he's gonna start to conserve himself a little bit more, and he's gonna look for the decision. So I'm not saying he doesn't look for the knockout all 3 rounds, but he realizes that he has to change that game plan a little bit.
Conserve that energy.
Yeah, and conserve that energy. So I'm not worried about the threat of a knockout after the first round from Lerone Murphy, whereas I am with Ricardo Ramos.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if Murphy's going to win this fight, he needs to do something similar to what Journey did. Journey utilized those leg kicks really well, and Ramos's left leg was a completely different color than his right leg by the end of that fight. And Journey was really close to winning that fight, to be honest. Ramos was not able to stand on that left leg in the 3rd round. And if Journey didn't get caught by that elbow again, I mean, I think, did it go to a decision? I think it ended up going to a decision.
I don't remember. I don't know if he finished him in the 3rd or if
I don't
it went
think
to
he
the
finished
decision,
him.
but it was close. It was really close.
I think it ended up going to a decision, to be honest. But Journey just got knocked down too many times with that elbow.
Well, yeah, Journey just kind of got beat up in that fight.
Beat up, but the leg kicks took a toll
his leg kicks
on
were
Ramos.
definitely, and that was Journey's first fight in the UFC.
And he did lose a decision. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
it was decision.
So it was a decision, but he got dropped a lot. But those leg kicks, and I think that Lerone Murphy's a little bit bigger than Journey.
And we've seen fights finished by leg kicks.
Absolutely. And I think if Lerone Murphy, I think it'd be dangerous for him to stand with Ramos unless he's going to beat up that leg. He's got to beat up that lead leg.
If we look at the strikes, it was 76 strikes for Journey Newsom landed.
Significant strikes.
Significant strikes. 80 strikes landed for Ricardo Ramos.
Yeah.
96 total strikes landed.
6 takedowns, though.
Versus 82 total takedowns. So on that striking, it was fairly even. But like you said, a lot of that came from the leg kicks.
Yeah.
So if you look...
But those legs, I mean...
Look at the damage. 40% or 53% of Journey's strikes were landed to the legs.
And like I said, Ramos's left leg was a completely different color than his right leg.
Yep, that's a good key to victory for
Lerone Murphy.
Yeah, Lerone Murphy.
I think if he's going to win the fight, that's how it is.
I just don't see it. A lot of kicks though.
Exactly, I just don't see it. Which is why for this pick, I like Ramos by decision.
Ooh, that's good because I have Ramos by submission because when I was watching some of Lerone Murphy's fights, because he tries to finish it so hard in that first round, he starts to gas towards the end. He does flip that switch where he starts to conserve energy looking for that decision, but I don't think that Ramos is going to flip that switch and look for a decision. Yep. I think Ramos is going to keep the pressure on. He's going to be able to get him down in the 2nd round, and he's going to add another submission to his record.
We're going to find out. I do like Murphy does have some pretty good takedown defense. He's got some underrated takedown defense.
He does, but I just feel like he gets tired
we're gonna find out
next round. So let's move on to the next fight. This one's John Phillips versus Khamzat Chimaev. This is at 185 pounds. John Phillips is called the White Mike Tyson. He's 22-9. He's 1-3 in the UFC. He's 35 years old, and he's 5 feet 11 inches tall. So he's fighting Khamzat Chimaev, who's 26 years old. He's 6-0. He's 6 feet 2 inches tall, and I believe he's making his UFC debut. Tell me what you feel about these guys.
Well, like you said, John is 1-3 in the UFC with his lone victory coming in his last fight.
Yep.
A knockout win versus Alan Amedovski. So we've got that one there. One thing I noticed about John is he likes to kind of bait his opponents into a brawl.
Yeah.
He's got a really tough chin, man. He's got a bomb shelter for a chin.
He's actually kind of got some technical striking too.
Yeah, his striking's not bad, but he wants to stand and bang.
And bang.
That's what he does.
Yeah, he's another guy who's not looking to go to the ground at all.
No, he's got a lot of power in his punches, and he's got a chin, so he just stands there and trades.
Yeah.
That's what he likes to do. One thing that, a fighter that can beat him, elusive fighters, guys that know how to use their range, know how to stay on the outside and pick opponents apart. Yeah. Those are the guys that can beat him. If you don't get into a brawl with him, you can win. If you get into a brawl with John Phillips, you're probably not going to win.
Yeah, so, what he's talking about is the fact that John Phillips has 20 knockouts on his record.
Yeah.
20 knockouts.
He's got power.
He puts people to sleep. He knocks people dead. So if he hits you, you're going out. Yep. He's got good technical hands. He's the former Bama champion. The problem is, though, that he does take a lot of punches.
Yeah, and he can be put on his back.
Like Cullen said before, he likes to just stand and bang. He will take some punches. He's gonna take some to give some, and he's just got to land one. It's got to be one.
Yeah, just got to land one.
That's all it's got to be. Most of his losses do come by submission, though. So if he goes to the ground, like we said, he doesn't care about fighting on the ground. Yeah. He doesn't want to go to the ground. He wants to stay on the feet.
Yeah.
Khamzat Chimaev, on the other hand, what do you think about him?
So Khamzat is I watched. It's hard to find some of his fights. He only has 6 fights.
Six fights, yep.
So I was trying to watch one of them, and I watched his fight versus Sidney Wheeler. And interesting enough, Sidney Wheeler was a wrestling state champion in Ohio, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And Khamzat was able to take him down. Mm-hmm. So Khamzat was able to put Wheeler on his back.
Yes.
Which was interesting, because that shows me that Khamzat's got some pretty high-level wrestling at that point. Ohio... You win a state championship in Ohio, you probably have pretty good wrestling.
Well, they
let's
got
be honest.
Ohio State and they got Ohio University out there. There's a couple different colleges out there that are...
It's the mecca for wrestling. Ohio, Nebraska, the whole Midwest right there is
you get all of them.
Solid place for wrestling.
Iowa.
Iowa. But, one thing, he has pretty good power himself.
Yeah.
He's not, a weak puncher at all.
No, he's got 2 wins by knockout of 6.
Yeah, he does have 2 wins by knockout. So, but the one thing I think, is if he gets baited into a brawl with Phillips, he's going to sleep.
Yes.
And I think that in this fight, I don't know that he has the experience enough to learn, to keep his distance, try to poke him from outside and move, circle the cage, and just get in and out on his striking. I think he might end up actually brawling with Phillips.
I think that, he's not going to brawl. He does a good job mixing his feet in there a little bit, too, with the striking. Whenever the punches are threatening him, he changes levels and he shoots.
Yeah.
I was able to find a couple of videos. I wasn't able to find a lot of whole matches, but the other thing I was able to find, though, was highlight videos. Mm-hmm. So I looked at a couple of highlight videos, too. He takes people down. He's got really good takedowns. He mixes it in with the striking. So what he'll do is he'll start to watch what you're doing with your hands, and as soon as you get ready to throw that big punch, he'll change levels and take you down.
Yeah.
And that's perfect for wrestling. But for that reason, I have a feeling that Khamzat's going to take him down in the first round and submit him.
See, I don't know that that's going to happen. This is another card we're kind of opposite on. I like it. So my thing is, I think
I said Khamzat, didn't I?
Yeah, you keep saying Khamzat.
Khamzat.
And so
Khamzat's going to take him down and submit him in the first round.
But yeah, man, I like John Phillips in this one. I think his experience is going to be too much. I think he's going to be strong enough to keep it standing versus Khamzat.
Well, and John Phillips isn't a can crusher.
No.
So he's while he hasn't fought the elite, he hasn't really been fighting a bunch of brand new guys.
It's not like he's fighting guys with 0-0 records.
Yeah, he's fighting guys with winning records too.
He's not padding it.
So no, he's definitely not padding it. He's trying to find challenges for himself. He's definitely a guy that deserves to be in the UFC based on what I've seen so far. He's just got to figure out a little bit more of a better way to win in the instance that he's not going to get that quick knockout.
Yeah, so I mean, we look at this. He did lose to he lost a split decision to Jack Marshman. Mm-hmm. He lost a submission to Kevin Holland.
Yep.
And a submission to Charles Byrd.
Which is why I think it's going submission.
All 3 of those losses were in the UFC, and then he did knock out Alan Amedovski, as we mentioned earlier.
And then look down here, Jesse Taylor, Jesse the General.
Jesse Taylor was able to submit him. But like I said, I just haven't seen enough of Khamzat other than his, taking...
That's not Jesse the General, that's JT the General.
Yeah, JT Taylor. But, I mean, he also knocked out Charlie Ward.
Yeah.
That's a good knockout.
That is a very good knockout.
So, I mean, he's got the power. He lost to Frank Trigg via knockout. Another good fight right there. Frank Trigg was no joke.
Twinkle toes, baby.
I mean, let's be honest.
Twinkle toes.
So the guy's been fighting. I think his experience, like I said, I just think his experience is going to be too much. Yeah. I think the opening round is going to be a lot of feeling out. Khamzat is going to have UFC jitters. He's only 6-0, 6 professional fights. He's making his UFC debut. I think he's just going to have those jitters, man.
It's very possible.
So I think the first round is going to be a little bit of picking each other apart, and I think by the second round,
see, but here's the other thing,
it's going to sleep.
On the other side of that, though, while he might have those jitters, John Phillips, he needs to figure out how to be successful in the UFC.
Yeah, well, he does have that win he's coming off of.
He's got to be able to string multiple wins together, though. If he goes 4-1 in the UFC, or 1-4 in the UFC,
yeah, it looks bad.
Are they really going to keep bringing him in?
Yeah, I mean, as long it just depends.
It's hard. You can't really promote that name.
it's one of those things though, because you look at like the matchups. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's a striker. They put
He's
him
an
up against a
exciting
lot
guy.
of
So they're
a
not
lot
worried
of
about
wrestlers though, and submission guys. You know, and then you look at somebody like Sean O'Malley, who's getting pushed out a lot, but he
and they're
hasn't
taking
fought a
him away from
grappler yet.
wrestlers. Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of a bias there, where they're forcing him to fight guy after guy after guy that's hard to fight.
Yep. I still think Sean
So we're gonna
O'Malley
see.
needs to go against Ricky Simone. I'm going to keep saying
Well,
that.
O'Malley's
every
got
week.
Vera coming up now. Marlon Vera, that fight has been confirmed.
Yeah, I don't care. They still need to do that Ricky Simone one. Ricky Simone's
That'd be
frustrating me not calling him out because that's the one that he needs. That's going to be good for Ricky. It's going to be good for Sean. If Sean wins, that shows that Sean can go against a good wrestler.
Well, you know
if
what
Ricky
pisses
wins,
me
that'll
off?
push him up in popularity. He's already right there around 15.
You know what pissed me off about this whole thing? So, Frankie Edgar's opponent had to back out due to COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Frankie Edgar's trying to make his bantamweight debut. He's not fought at 135 yet. He was supposed to fight at 135, and then Pedro Munoz had COVID, so he had to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky was already on Fight Island.
Yep.
You know, he had Paige Van Zandt, who was fighting one of his teammates, and Ricky straight up said, "I'm here. I'm ready to go. If you need somebody to step in, I'll fight."
Yep.
Frankie Edgar turned that fight down.
Frankie Edgar turned that fight down.
So the Pedro Munoz fight ended up getting rescheduled.
Yep.
But you had your training camp. You claimed to be wanting to make your
Ricky was-
bantamweight debut.
so-
You're trying to get in there and do it, but now you're going to turn down Ricky?
Ricky's right there, a gatekeeper, man, at this point. You know, I hate to say it because he's only got a couple of losses.
And he's
but
still young in the
he's-
UFC.
He's at that point where he's right around the top 15.
Yeah.
So if you want to break in and you're going to make that debut and your big payday or your ranked fighter falls out,
Yeah.
you have a potential to still get yourself ranked with a good win over Ricky, or Ricky has the opportunity to really boost his career. I get it that Ricky has more to gain than you do,
Right.
but you're trying
But
to
let's
still...
be honest, you haven't fought at 135 either.
And you're a fighter. Fighters
Have
fight.
you made that weight?
Fighters fight.
We don't even know if Frankie can really make that weight yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't had to weigh in. He hasn't had to cut the weight because, so we're going to find out.
And I've been a big Frankie fan for a long time.
And he's coming from 155, 145 down to 135.
I don't feel
20
like,
pounds.
you know, and I'm a guy who still doesn't feel like he truly lost that 55 belt. So I've watched both those fights over and over again. I'm still a Benson Henderson fan. I have signed gloves from him on my wall right over there. But I don't feel like Frankie
Oh, they were
Edgar-
close, man.
I don't feel like Frankie lost either of those fights.
Because I scored it for Benson. You
but
know that.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people did. A lot of people did. I didn't. They were close fights, though. You can't get upset about it. But the bottom line is he should not have ran from Ricky at this point. It looks bad for him coming as a former world champion.
Yeah, it was kind of pissing me off because, you know, we're so close to the card. He's been in a full training camp. Ricky's not in a training camp.
No, he's just there to coach.
He was there to help coach his teammate.
Yeah, Paige Van Zandt.
And, you know, he's already there. He's passed all his tests, so you don't have to worry about the red tape.
Nope. It's good to go.
It's good to go. All you
It
gotta do
doesn't
is say
get any
yes.
better than that. And on paper, it should be an easier fight.
And to me, I think Ricky's got a better following
On
than Pedro
paper.
Munoz right now.
Oh, he definitely has a better following.
Everybody, you know, a lot of people, like, came at Ricky when he cut his mullet off, dude. People were pissed.
Well, you know, when you start building your name and promoting yourself as
And you
Mr.
got that mullet, and it was
Yeah.
a beautiful mullet. Let's be honest. It was a beautiful mullet.
Well, not as good as our stepdad's, but
But it was a beautiful mullet. I mean, but Ricky's following in the UFC right now is there. He's on the cusp, and he's a dangerous fighter for Frankie.
he's a dangerous fighter for anybody.
Yeah, he is. He's a dangerous fighter for anybody. You know, he's
I
pretty
mean,
well-rounded.
he probably would have beat Uriah Faber if he wasn't so nervous.
I think that was starstruck because we've
Yeah,
seen him in the
exactly.
UFC, so he obviously didn't have UFC jitters. It was
Yep.
just he's fighting one of his heroes.
He's fighting one of the legends.
Yeah, a
you know?
legend in the sport.
A guy
one
you
of his
grew
heroes,
up
a
watching.
Guy, yeah, exactly.
I grew up watching this guy when I was in high school. He was fighting. And then Ricky's a couple years younger than me.
Yep. And then you come in to fight Uriah Faber, dude. Like,
A guy who
can
was a
see it.
star when you start getting into it. The guy
And
who's
he
top
was
two,
hurting
top
Faber
three.
in that fight until he got caught with that right.
Yeah, I feel like if he was a little bit more flowy, he wasn't as jittery, where he's kind of,
Yeah.
kind
It was nerves for
of.
sure. It was definitely nerves.
Definitely nerves, but.
So, but either way, let's get back to this, man. I've got Phillips with a knockout round 2, and you've got
I got Kazma by submission round 1.
Kamzat.
Oh, yeah. I got Kamza by submission round 1. I just have a feeling he's going to take him down. He's going to take him down. Like you said, he was able to beat a very good wrestler before. Mm-hmm. He's going to be able to take him down in the first round.
Yeah.
And he's not going to deal with the threat that John Phillips poses. John Phillips definitely poses that knockout power, so why stand in front of him when you have the wrestling caliber to take him down?
We see that sometimes, though. People make some stupid
pride,
decisions.
Right?
Yeah. They want to beat a guy at his own game.
We were just talking about Justin Gaethje doesn't like to wrestle when he's got great wrestling. So,
yeah. So I mean, we're getting there. But let's go ahead and move on to the next fight.
Ooh, so we're kicking off the main card right now, and we're actually kicking it off with a really good one with Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Manur Lazez. This is at 170 pounds. Abdul is 34 years old. He's 5 feet 10 inches tall, and he's 10-1 overall. But he's 4-1 in the UFC, and all of his knockouts have come by way of KO.
All of his knockouts have come by way of KO?
Yeah, all of his wins in the UFC have come by way of KO.
Yeah.
Monir's making his UFC debut. He's 9-1. He's 32 years old, and he's 6 feet 1 inches tall. So tell me what you think about these guys.
This fight excites me because it has potential to be finished early, and it has potential to be a fight of the night.
Oh, it has potential for a lot of things.
It's going to be fireworks. Let's just say this fight is not one that you're going to want to miss.
Yep.
If you have the opportunity to watch this fight because this one, it's hard to predict.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
But it's going to be a fun fight.
It's going to be fun.
So Al Hassan, dude, he is extremely well-rounded too.
Yep.
He's a judo black belt, okay? But he's knocking people out. The dude's really well-rounded.
I'm glad you put that in there because I only put claims to have judo experience. I didn't know he was an actual black belt.
No, he's a judo black belt. He's got 3 straight knockout wins in the UFC right now.
Yes.
3 straight knockout wins in the UFC. His last knockout win was over a UFC vet, Nico Price. Good knockout there.
So technically, all 4 of his wins in the UFC have come by knockout.
Yep. He did get, I think he had about 1 loss in between those. So he's got 3 straight.
He's 4-1. He has 1 loss in between. One of his losses, though, are controversial.
It was a split decision, I think.
No. I want to talk about...
Oh, you're talking about... Okay, yeah.
So when he fought Sabah Homasi...
The first fight. They fought twice.
So Sabah Homasi, he fought him the first time. Herb Dean was the ref. Herb Dean...
Some people think it was stopped early. Let's just get to the chase.
It was definitely stopped early. There's no question in my mind it was stopped early. So what happened in that fight? They were throwing punches at each other, and at that point, Homasi dropped down to grab the legs. Mm-hmm. He changed levels to grab the legs, and when he did that, Herb Dean thought he was hit, but he didn't even get hit by the punch right before that. Yeah. He literally just dropped down to change levels and grab the legs and go for a takedown. Herb Dean stopped it thinking that he got knocked out and dropped. That's not what happened. He literally dropped down for a double leg. So they ran it back.
And there was no doubt about it this time.
I mean, that first fight, Homasi was still losing. He was still losing that first fight. But it was a competitive first fight. And both of the guys were like, it was an action-packed fight. It was awesome. They ran it back. Yeah. And guess what? Al Hassan made sure that there was no question this time. Put him out in a brutal knockout. Out cold to prove that he won that first fight and that second fight. So that puts him at 4-1.
Yeah, and Al Hassan has only been out of the first round once as well. Yep. And that was that split decision loss to Omari Akhmedov. Mm-hmm. And that's the one that came in between that knockout streak there. But he's just got lightning in his hands.
So wait. You said wait. Say that again.
So he's got a split decision loss to Omari Akhmedov.
No, but you said that he came out of, or he only has one.
He's
fight.
Only been out of the first round once.
And which fight was that?
The Omari Akhmedov fight, and that fight went to a split decision.
I feel like that's the one he lost.
He lost that fight.
Okay.
So he lost that fight. It was a split decision loss to Omari Akhmedov.
Because if you look at his record on mixedmartialarts.com, who's supposed to be the official record keepers, they do a terrible job when Tapology does a way better job. It says that he went to the second round in one of his fights against the guy I was just talking about.
Which guy?
Musasi, or the guy that he just fought twice.
Oh, no. Both those were first round.
Yes, but if you look on Mixed Martial Arts, it says that he went to the second round with him.
That's weird.
So that's why I was making sure that you weren't talking about that fight.
No. Yeah, no.
Or Homasi. So Homasi, sorry.
Yeah, no.
So if you look on mixedmartialarts.com, You can keep talking. I'm gonna pull it up.
Yeah. So, but like I was getting to, Al Hassan has lightning in his fucking hands, dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's got lightning in those hands. He's really, really quick, and one thing, he's willing to take a punch to get his punches, to land his punches. He'll go ahead and walk in there, take a couple punches just to land that one.
Yep.
And so he's going to move forward, and he's going to do that. And then Laziz is making his UFC debut, so it's another guy. Like I said in the beginning of this video, we've got a lot of people on this card making UFC debuts. I don't like picking people making the UFC debuts unless it's Yuri Prochazka. We picked him, and that was such a great one. The dude's an
Because he's a monster. He's awesome.
But,
by the way, thank you for all the views. We appreciate you, and
dude,
we understand why you have such a big fan
almost
following.
2,500 views on that
when we average
reaction video.
Or less than 100.
Dude, it's crazy. But anyway, so Laziz is making his UFC debut. He's also a knockout artist. He's got 8 of his 9 wins have all come by way of knockout. I don't think that this is going to the ground at all. Both these guys like to knock people out.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. If you look, going back to Al Hassan's record,
yeah,
all of his wins have
knockouts.
come by first-round knockouts.
First-round knockouts?
First-round knockouts.
And for that reason...
So then the one time he goes into the later rounds, he loses by decision.
Split decision. So that means it was a really, really competitive fight.
Yep.
And I actually watched that fight a little bit, and he very well could have won that fight.
Yep. I didn't really feel like he was. You know, he's a judo black belt, but I didn't really. You said that he was a judo black belt. Like I didn't find that myself in my own research. I just didn't feel like he was very skilled on the ground though.
Yeah, well,
judo guys tend to have some submissions.
He should have some submissions, but he likes to stand and bang.
He does.
It's one of those things, man. And I just, with Laziz, he's also a striker, so I don't see this going to the ground at all.
Yeah.
So he's probably not going to have to use his judo.
Laziz has 8 wins by knockouts.
Out of 9 wins.
I don't know if we talked about it in this fight, but he also has competed in Abu Dhabi before.
No, we didn't talk about this one yet.
So he's been through this experience before. He knows what to expect when going to Abu Dhabi. He knows how to be ready when it comes to that. He has the ability to take information from past fights and say, these are the mistakes that I made leading up to that fight. I'm going to change that. So I think that plays into his advantage. What did you think about the result for this fight?
So for this fight, like I said, both these dudes are strikers.
Yes.
I like Al Hassan's striking better. He's like I said, he's got lightning in his hands.
That one's empty.
He takes a punch, and I just don't see this fight going to the ground at all. So for me, we're going to look at a stand-up battle, and I think
in the first round,
Al Aziz is going to knock him out in the first round.
Woo, man, we are way off. So I'm going with another knockout.
Oh man,
I think Laziz is knocking him out in the first round.
See, not me. I think Laziz I didn't like his striking. I mean, it was okay.
I just thought it was a little bit better.
But it wasn't pretty.
I just thought it was a little bit better, and I feel like it's a very, very, very big opportunity for Munir Laziz to make a big, big entrance into the UFC.
Yeah.
Pulling into that decision was also the fact that he has the fight experience of going to Abu Dhabi to fight and not living crazy far away.
Yeah.
So that right there kind of pushed me a little bit more towards him.
Well, this comes for me. It's also Al Hassan has fought better fighters. Because you talk about that sometimes in your
This
picks.
is true.
Al Hassan knocked out Nico Price.
He did.
In 43 seconds.
In fact, that's one of my notes right there.
He also knocked out Charlie Ward in 53 seconds.
Yeah, and that's a good
Another
knockout.
good knockout. So, I mean, he's fought the better fighters. He's got the experience. It's going to be a fun fight, but I think someone's definitely going to sleep.
Somebody's going to sleep.
I just think Al Hassan's going to sleep. Or not going to sleep. I think Al Hassan's going to put Laziz to sleep.
Oh, man.
And you've got Laziz putting Al Hassan to sleep. So this is going to be a fun fight. You guys got to tune in for this one.
You and I are so off on our picks this year, or this pick this year.
Yeah, but let's say, where were we at? You were 11 picks out of 13. I was 10 out of 13 on the last card, even though we were so off on the first few fights.
We've been so off though, even on our early fights though. So this is going to be interesting.
Well, in the first few picks, actually, yes.
The first few cards
that we did. Yep.
So then, after this fight, though, we move on to let's move on to our next fight. We move on to number 15. Molly McCann is fighting Talia Santos. In this fight right now, Molly McCann, she's 10-2. She's 30 years old, and she's 5 feet 2 inches tall, and she's 3-1 in the UFC. She lost her debut to Julian Robertson, who's proven to be a very tough top contender. And then you have Talia Santos, who's 15-1. She's 27 years old. She's 5 feet 4 inches tall, and she's competed as high as 145 pounds. And this fight is at 125 pounds.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about it.
So this fight, I mean, I'm gonna be real honest with you. While Tyler's 15-1.
Yeah, it's Tyla. Did I say Talia?
Yeah, Tyler.
Yeah, it's Tyla.
She's 15-1, but her record is very, very deceiving. I looked at her opponents for just the last 6 opponents she had. 3 of her last 6 opponents combined for like an 0-14 record.
Yeah.
She's got, you're talking 3 of her last 6, so that means she's at 9 wins by this point.
So she's a can crusher for sure.
8-9 wins at this point, and she's fighting people with 0-0 records, 0-1, 0-2.
She's a can crusher.
She's a can crusher. She's a can crusher. We're crushing cans, and she is a can crusher. She looks pretty small in a lot of her fights that I was watching, so that might be why. Maybe because she was fighting up in those weight classes. So 125 might be more of a natural home for her.
Maybe.
I just,
she's fought as high as 145, but like you said, looks small.
Yeah, McCann, man. For me, McCann, she just looks relentless in a lot of her fights. That I said that earlier, relentless, and she's got this. For me, relentlessness is she's always coming forward and she's always throwing something.
Yep.
Even on the ground, she's going to be throwing something, and I like that from her. To me, that she's just got that relentless bulldog. I'm going to come at you and I'm going to win. And we saw one of her fights earlier where she beat Belbeat, who's fighting earlier on the card.
Fighting on the prelims.
And that was a good fight. But McCann controlled that fight for the majority of it.
McCann definitely controlled that fight.
So, like I said, Santos' record's full of girls with no wins, and so it's really hard for me to judge her. I watched, she looks like she has some skill. In that fight against Mara Romero Barella.
She looked pretty good in that fight. She showed that she did have some skill.
So that's what threw me off is like I watched that fight. That's a UFC fight, and it looks like she's got some decent skill.
But I'm gonna throw somebody else at you that you're gonna recognize the name very well, Ricky Simón. Mm-hmm. If you look at his early fights, he was definitely a can crusher. Yeah. I mean, you look at those fights. Some of those guys are like 0-23 or 1-15 or something like that in his early fights. That doesn't mean that he didn't have the skill, but what it meant that is he has the management, the team that was able to help him pad the record. Mm-hmm. So it could be deceiving a little bit.
Could be. That's why I said it was hard for me to really.
I think Ricky right now he's a top 5, maybe top 5. He's a top 10.
Definitely top 10.
I think he's a top 10, potentially a top 5 guy. I feel like if he gets back to the head movement that he used to have earlier on before the Titan FC days. I feel like if he gets back to that style of movement, he'll put himself in the top 5 for sure. Yeah. But I think he's a top 10 guy. But his record is deceiving as well. If you look at it, and we'll break it down. Yeah. I mean, I'll show you off air.
We'll get there.
He's definitely a can crusher, but it doesn't mean that he's not a top 10 guy right now. So the record can be a little bit deceiving. Mm-hmm. Molly McCann, she's also fought in Cage Warriors, though, which is the best European promotion. Right. You see a lot of our top guys that fight in the UK and in Europe. They come over and they all have competed through Cage Warriors. Yeah. If you're trying to get in the UFC from Europe, Cage Warriors is an excellent proving ground. She's fought there. Most of her wins do come by decision. And like you said, her last win was a decision over Belbita, who fought her. Who
she's fighting earlier in the card.
Yeah, so I think that I would agree with you overall, though. Talia Santos is a can crusher, and for that reason, and the fact that she did look good in that fight you were talking about, I give Molly McCann the decision in this fight. There you go. So I don't think she's going to finish her.
See, so we're close. I mean, Santos has pretty good cardio, and in that Barella fight, we saw that her cardio, because she came on really strong in the third after being dominated really in the first 2 rounds. Yep. And so she came on strong in the third, was able to stop the takedowns of Barella at that point, and started picking her apart. So her cardio's there, so it could very well go to a decision. Yeah. I think McCann is just going to be bigger and stronger in this fight. I think she's going to be able to take her down. I think she's going to be able to control her. And I think that by the third round, we're just going to see a McCann TKO.
Yeah.
I think it's possible.
So we both agree that it's going to go to the third round, though.
I do think, it's going to the third round.
We don't see it getting finished early.
I don't think either one of these girls are finishing each other early.
Awesome.
It's going at least to the third round for me. I've got a third round TKO for McCann. Not even a knockout. It's just she's just going to get on top of her. I think she's just going to pummel her until the ref has to stop it.
So we're moving on to the next fight at 145 pounds. This is Jimmy Rivera versus Cody Stamann. Jimmy is 22-4. He's 5 feet 4 inches tall. He's 31 years old, and he's 6-3 in the UFC currently. Let's check out Cody Stamann. So Cody Stamann's 19-2. He's 30 years old. He's 5 feet 6 inches tall. He's currently ranked 10th in the UFC, and he's 5-1-1 in the UFC, meaning he has 1 loss and 1 draw.
Right.
Tell me what you think about these fighters.
Dude, this is another one with potential fight of the night on it right here.
Yeah.
Jimmy Rivera, all his fights have been exciting. So, I mean, it's getting there, And Rivera's not a slouch, man. You look at who he's beat in his UFC career. John Dodson, Uriah Faber,
Thomas Almeida,
Yuri Alcantara, Thomas Almeida, Pedro Munoz.
Yeah.
He's got some good wins, man.
A lot of good wins.
He's got 2 decision losses in a row, though, he's coming off of. But you got to look at who he's lost to. Aljamain Sterling and then Petr Yan.
Current champion.
Current champ, and Aljamain Sterling's fighting for the title next.
Yeah.
So those are not bad losses, and they're decision losses. Neither one of those guys were able to finish him.
Nope, but Jimmy Rivera still gets a top 10 ranking from it either way. He's ranked number 9 right now, despite those losses.
Yeah.
You have to recognize the caliber of opponent.
Who they're losing to.
You have to recognize the caliber of opponent when you take into consideration the rankings. So they definitely took that into consideration and the wins. When they talk about that. He's also very experienced fighting in King of the Cage, World Series of Fighting, and Bellator before fighting in the UFC.
He's definitely a top 10 featherweight in the world.
Yeah, I would agree.
Definitely top 10.
I would agree. He's a third-degree karate black belt.
Okay.
So he's good with his striking there. He's the former DFC or the former CFFC champion.
Yep.
So he's a champion from another organization. And he mixes his punches and his kicks well.
He's a great striker. One thing I liked about him, he's really elusive and he's a good scrambler.
Yes.
So if you're trying to take him down, good luck.
Yeah.
We've seen him taken down, obviously, but you've got to have some really high-class grappling to get Rivera down and to keep him down. Yeah. Taking somebody down is one thing, but keeping them down is another. Good luck keeping Rivera down.
Yeah.
He's amazing when it comes to getting back to his feet. And, we also saw him in that fight versus Petr Yan. Petr Yan dropped him multiple times.
Yep, and he
dropped him.
Got right back up.
And he was able to recover and get back up. And then when it comes to Stamann, he is pretty solid striking as well.
So he's 5-1-1 in the UFC.
Yeah.
So only has 1 real loss in the UFC.
Yeah. And he's another guy with I think he's a NCAA Division II wrestler, but he's got college wrestling as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wrestler by trade before he became a fighter. Cardio's not going to be an issue in this fight, so
he's currently ranked 10th in the UFC, so he's just behind
Rivera.
Yeah, so he's just behind him.
This fight makes sense,
and that's exactly the type of fight you want. You either want a guy. I mean, if you're Rivera, you're looking for someone ahead of you. But if you're looking for a fight that's going to draw in fans and boost your name, this is the perfect fight right here.
This is a good fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight. Like I said, potential fight of the night.
You're going to draw in a lot of fans on this one just because of it potentially being a fight of a night.
It's going to be a good one, man. I don't know that Stamann's wrestling is good enough to get Rivera down and keep him there. He might land a takedown or two, but I don't see him being able to keep Rivera down.
So the only loss, though, I could probably agree with that. He has wins over Brian Caraway and Brian Keller.
They share a loss to Aljamain Sterling, but Sterling,
and that's his only loss, though.
Yep. And Sterling submitted him, though.
By knee bar.
And Rivera went to a decision with Sterling.
Yes.
So that's like one way you can kind of compare guys as similar opponents.
Similar opponents, but obviously MMA math doesn't work out.
Not always.
But it could help you kind of figure out who might have the better striking or who might have the better ground game, looking at how they did against other strikers.
We look at that Aljamain Sterling fight. Aljamain Sterling actually out-grappled Stamen.
Yes.
He was able to, I mean, they kind of took each other down a couple times, and Stamen showed he's got high-quality grappling. Mm-hmm. But Aljamain Sterling's just that much better.
Well, Stamen's really looking to decision guys. Mm-hmm. He has 6 knockouts, but he has 11 decision wins. Stamen's looking to go the distance. He competed in high school wrestling. He's a 2008 Golden Glove boxing champion. He began boxing at 16, actually. Yep. So, he's another real true mixed martial artist. He's competed at professional boxing. I don't think that went very well for him. But before he even made his jump to the pros, he was 19-1 as an amateur.
Yeah, he's got good striking too.
He's got a lot of experience. His striking's unpredictable. And he can fight from any position because he's comfortable on the ground, he's comfortable on his feet, and I think it makes him deadly everywhere. Who do you have winning this fight?
So for me, like I said, both guys have excellent cardio.
Yep.
So I can see this fight lasting through the 3rd round, which is why I have, and I think Jimmy Rivera is just a little bit better in all those other areas than Stamen. Stamen could win. Obviously, stuff happens, and this fight's that close. I think it's a close fight, but I think you're going to see Jimmy Rivera win a decision in this fight.
Ooh, man, another one we are opposite on. I got Cody Stamen by decision. I just feel like his striking's a little bit more technical and a little bit more clean. And I thought that the difference was, I think Cody Stamen's going to get on the inside. And when he gets on the inside, he's going to make it very hard for Rivera to land anything. And he's going to be able to outpunch him, and he's going to be able to outland him. So we'll see what happens. Out.
I mean, I think if Cody Stamen tries to get inside with Rivera, that's a bad spot to be.
I think it's his best bet.
I think it's a bad spot. You don't want to stay inside with Rivera.
Well, you don't want Rivera inside of you, but you don't want Rivera on the inside of you. But if you're on the inside of him, I think that you're all right.
Yeah, we're going to find out, man. It's going to be a good fight. Like we said, potential fight of the night right here.
Yeah, it's going to be another good one.
There's a few of them that have this potential fight of the night candidacy.
Hey, if you haven't liked the pandemic fights, you're crazy. I've loved them all.
There's been some good ones, man.
Ooh, but,
let's go ahead and move on to the next fight.
This one's the co-main event of the night, actually. This one is Tim Elliott versus Ryan Benoit at 125 pounds. Tim Elliott, he's 33 years old. He's 5'7". He's 16-11-1. He's currently ranked 12th in the UFC. Honestly, I don't get why, because he's 4-9 in the UFC, not including his time on The Ultimate Fighter.
Do they pronounce it Benoit or is it Benoit?
Benoit.
They do pronounce it Benoit?
Yep, Benoit.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I'm not too familiar with Ryan Benoit or Benoit.
Benoit. Yeah.
Benoit. So I'm not too familiar with him. I watched a couple of his fights, but didn't really pay attention to the enunciation of his name. So, but
probably had it on low like we do when we watch the fights.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got to recognize that Tim Elliott's coming off 3 losses in a row.
Did I talk about Ryan Benoit?
I don't think you started with
Let me tell you a little bit about Ryan Benoit real quick. So Ryan Benoit, he's 10-6. He's 30 years old. He's 5 feet 5 inches tall. He's 3-5 in the UFC, and he's 0-2 in his last 2. He's been in the UFC since 2013. Mm-hmm. So he's been around for a long time. All right, let's continue on with what we were talking about. Sorry about that. I didn't realize I didn't introduce him.
No, we're good. So what, like I was mentioning, Tim's coming off 3 losses in a row right now. So I think he's desperate for a win right here. I think he needs a win right here.
I agree.
Last time I said that, though, Vanessa Mello didn't show any desperation. Obviously, Tim's a veteran, so I think he's going to know what the situation is with him right now.
Well, Tim's also a wild man.
He is.
He comes out and he's looking to win every fight, and he puts himself at risk to try to provide an exciting fight. So he likes to make the fans happy, and he does that at the risk of his own win, though.
He does.
So, I mean, he's going to come forward no matter what and look to fight and look to scrap.
For me, this one is I think this one's going to be your typical grappler versus striker matchup. Tim, as we know, is a wrestler. He's got NCAA wrestling pedigree, Division II, I think it is. He's a D2 wrestler, but he's a BJJ blue belt, so we know he's
But
He's
if you look
okay on the
at
ground.
his Demetrius Johnson fight, he looks a little bit higher than
He
a blue
does,
belt.
and I mean, if you want to grade somebody's ground skills, that's a good way to grade him, is versus DJ.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be
Yeah,
honest, he's probably one of the best.
He looked a lot higher than a blue belt when he was going against DJ in that fight.
That was a surprising fight to me. I don't
So-
think anybody was expected that one to be.
So what
competitive.
happened in that fight? Tim Elliott won the Ultimate Fighter, and on that season of the Ultimate Fighter, it was a champions season. They brought in a bunch of champions from a bunch of different organizations, and then the winners from those shows would go on to fight the champions in the UFC. Tim Elliott won his fight, or won the Ultimate Fighter for his weight class, and then got the opportunity to move up and fight Demetrius Johnson for the 125-pound title belt. So that's how we got to that fight in the first place, because you hear us say he's 4-9 in the UFC, not including his Ultimate Fighter time. You're thinking, well, wait a second. If he's 4-9, why did he fight for a title at all?
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones because he was coming off 3 wins in a row, following 3 losses in a row. So he was really 3-3 in his last 6 going into that.
And one of those
Ultimate Fighter.
actually though was Titan
This-
FC.
Yep.
And that Titan FC fight was here in Clark County.
Yeah, that was at the fairgrounds, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was at the Clark County Fairgrounds. Ricky Simone, another UFC fighter, was actually fighting for the title. Ricky Simone was dominating that fight, and then he got caught with a head kick and submitted. I think it was maybe 3rd or 4th round. But he was whooping the dude's butt up until that point.
Yeah.
But that was here, and he was like a co-main or something like that. But it was a good fight either way. That was one of his 3 wins leading into the Ultimate Fighter house.
Yeah, man. So I mean, and if we're really looking at this, like we said, I think Tim Elliott is going to be more comfortable on the ground in this fight. Ryan Benoit is a Thai style kickboxer.
He's also a 3-time state champion in high school wrestling.
Yeah.
At least he claims. I didn't look it up myself.
I didn't see that stat, but I mean, I'm not going to question him.
I
really.
didn't look it up, I didn't look it up myself, but he claimed that. So I was watching one of his fight videos, and this is one of the claims that they had announced going into it. He was like a 3-time all-state champion in high school.
Interesting.
For wrestling.
Yeah, that one I didn't know, but what I do know is that he has a few decision losses or submission losses there.
UFC right
3
now.
and 4.
3 and 4 in the UFC. You're right.
Yep.
So he's 3 and 4 in the UFC. I keep saying 3 and 5 because he's 5 feet 5 inches. so he's 3 and 4 in the UFC. He's 0 and 2 in his last 2 in the UFC. He's been in the UFC since 2013.
Wow, it's really been that long, dang.
It's been that long.
I guess he's just not very active.
Yeah, well, I mean,
17. Yeah, he didn't fight at all in one fight in 2017.
but he has an interesting pattern though.
Nothing in 2018.
So if you look at his record though, check it out. Watch what you're gonna see. He
Yeah.
goes 1 win, 1 loss, but he started off with a loss.
Started with a loss, yep.
Started off with a loss,
Loss,
and then he
win,
goes
loss, win, loss, win, loss.
So if the pattern continues, he should be getting a win this time based on just the pattern alone.
yeah, if you superstitious and you like to follow those kind of things, who knows?
So if you're a bettor and you're superstitious and you want to follow patterns, look at that.
Yeah.
There you go, I guess. I don't know.
But
what do you have? Who do you have picked to win in this fight?
well, so like I said, Benoit has a lot of power.
Yep.
In his strikes, 8 wins of his are all by TKO, or knockout. His takedown defense actually isn't that bad. He's at 64% in the UFC right now.
That's not bad. That's part of the 3-time state champion
yeah.
wrestler there.
But in his previous fight, in the fight against Healy Alatang,
Okay.
I think that's how you pronounce his name. I don't remember. I watched the fight a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna figure that out.
Healy Alatang, but Alatang was able to secure 4 takedowns in that fight.
Yep.
The thing is Benoit was able to keep getting up. He couldn't stay down. So we'll see there. Obviously, when it comes to it, when I look at this, Tim's got the better fight or fought the better fighters. That was something we mentioned when we look at our decisions here.
Yep.
He's got a knockout win over Jens Pulver.
Yeah, he does. But also to
And
that
then
respect, Jens Pulver went on and lost like 6 or 7 in a row by
did.
knockout.
But that's a big name in MMA.
Yeah.
And then he fought to a decision loss against Mighty Mouse. So
Demetrius Johnson.
that shows he's got some skill there.
He's an exciting fighter.
He is an
so
exciting
he's
fighter.
got 3 Fight of the Night awards from the UFC. Or I don't know if they're necessarily Fight of the Night, but post-fight bonuses. It could have been a submission, could have been Fight of the Night. Typically with him, it's a Fight of the Night, and it's not a submission-style win that you're looking for.
Well, he's also only been Tim's only been knocked out once in his entire career. That's
tough.
one thing I was looking at,
He's super tough.
But he's been submitted 5 times.
Yeah. But with me, I don't think Ryan Benoit has the ability to submit him.
I don't either.
Tim Elliott's not really the finisher when it comes to punches or anything like that. I have Tim Elliott winning by decision.
You know what? I think this is the first fight on the entire card where you and I are in 100% agreement.
Boom! That's awesome.
Tim Elliott by decision.
That's awesome.
I just think he's going to be able to get him down a few times, control it. I think. I don't think Benoit's going to be able to knock him out.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's got that chin.
I don't think Benoit's going to knock him out either. I am a little bit worried about the fact that he's been struggling lately, but Benoit's been struggling too. So taking that into consideration, I'm looking at these guys.
And the desperation.
And ultimately, even in his last fight that he lost, though, he looked much better and he looked improved and he looked more improved in that last fight, even though he came up with the L.
Yeah, like I said, and with Tim coming off 3 losses in a row, he knows he needs this.
He knows this is the last chance.
He may even get a finish if we're seeing something, but I don't know if it's going to happen. That's why I've got him by decision.
We both got him by decision. That's awesome. But with that, we move on to the main event in a super exciting fight. Another one
fight of the night award potential.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they put it as main event, right?
Yeah, man.
So you got 21-4 Calvin Kattar versus 14-2 Dan Ige. This is going to be super exciting. Calvin Kattar, he's 32 years old. He's 5 feet 11 inches tall, and he's currently ranked 6th in the UFC. He has a record of 5-2 in the UFC. He's pretty awesome. I'm super excited about him. But then he goes on to fight Dan Ige, who's 10-4, but 7-1 in the UFC on a 6-fight win streak, and that's including his win on the Ultimate Fighter or on the Contender Series.
Yeah.
That's the reason he's 7-1, not just 6-1. His last 3 wins have come by decision, with 2 of them being split decisions. Mm-hmm. I still think personally, even with those split decisions, he had the edge. What do you think about these fights? Fight?
This fight is going to be another crazy fight. It's going to be a wild one. It's going to be another fight of the night contender, like we already said. One thing to note is Ige's coming off back-to-back split decision wins, which could have very well been split decision losses.
Although I gave him the wins.
Yeah, he had Edson Barboza and Mirsad Bektic. I think Bektic won that fight.
That's close.
Bektic got the takedowns, controlled the majority of the first 2 rounds there. But, Ige is a strong man. He's a good puncher and comes in there. But, he's been stepping up in competition with each fight. So, with that, he fought Mirsad Bektic first, and then he got that split decision win. Then he goes on and faces Edson Barboza, who probably one of the best strikers in the UFC.
One of the best strikers. He's inconsistent as far as his wins go, but
he fights tough.
He's always going against top guys, no matter what.
So that's still a good, and so that's a good win.
Very good win. Very good win. You can beat Edson Barboza. It's a good win.
Yeah. So I like it. I mean, the step up in competition is something that should be noted with Ige. I think Ige is also a BJJ black belt, judo brown belt, and an NCAA D3 wrestler.
Oh, yeah, you got all my notes. Did you just copy my shit and throw it on yours?
Yeah. So, Ige's obviously going to be really well-versed everywhere this fight goes.
Yep.
If we're looking at what he has, he's going to be really well-versed.
Well, he also got that performance of the night bonus against Danny Henry the other night, or a couple fights ago.
Yeah.
Danny Henry fought the other night. And,
he got choked out by Amir Khan.
I had picked him to win, but he got choked out.
Yep.
But, that's still a good win because Danny Henry's a black belt himself in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting fight here because with Kattar, Kattar actually throws with more volume than Ige.
Yep.
When I was looking at the stats on UFC, I think Kattar throws like almost 5-something significant strikes. What is it, per minute or something like that? And then Ige only throws 3.
Well, and Kattar also has super good wins too.
Also takes 6 significant strikes per minute. He eats a lot of strikes. So, but that shows me he's got a chin.
He was able to survive Jeremy Stephens.
Yeah. Jeremy Stephens came on strong in that first round.
If you're the type of guy that's going to take 6 punches, would you say 6 per minute? Or
it was like 6 significant strikes per minute. So, that could be a good leg kick. It could be...
Yeah, but ultimately, if you're going to take 6 significant strikes from a guy like Jeremy Stephens...
he took a lot more than that.
Jeremy Stephens is a knockout monster.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stephens is another one of those guys who has all the technique and the talent to be a champion. He just hasn't been able to put it together in the right ways. But, that's not even his only impressive win.
No,
he has a
got
win
some good
over
wins.
Chris Fishgold, who's fighting on the prelims earlier. He also has a win over Ricardo Lamas. and he has a decision win over Andre Fili, and he beat Shane Burgos.
Yeah, he did. Didn't he knock out Burgos?
I believe that was a finish.
think he
So,
did.
you know, his last 4 wins in the UFC have all came by KO or TKO. The one thing I have realized, though, is he does struggle against leg kicks.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make adjustments when people are kicking him in the leg, and he needs to figure that part out.
Yeah. So that you know, one of his losses in the UFC there to Zabit.
Yeah.
That's a tough loss.
Magomed
Zabit,
Shapirov, or how you say it?
I'm not sure. I don't want to go through all that, but
Yeah, it's Magomed Shapirov. That's exactly
yeah.
what it is.
Sharipov.
Or Sharipov.
Yeah,
Sharipov.
but
Magomed
just say
Sharipov.
Zabit. You should know who Zabit is by now.
He's a monster.
The dude's a beast.
He's a monster. He's really
And
fun.
he went to a decision with Zabit.
Yeah, and that's
So
that's like a fight
It
of
shows
the
how
night.
tough you are because Zabit is another one of those guys who I'd put in the relentless category.
Yes.
He just keeps coming.
Yes.
So that's a good yep. And the Shane Burgos, that's a good win there. And the Shane Burgos was a knockout, TKO round 3.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's got some good wins, good experience there for both guys. He's also a BJJ blue belt, I think it was that I saw there. And one of the stats that I liked when I looked on UFC.com, he has a 77% takedown defense.
Yeah.
So
He's
I think
not
it's going to
easy to
be
take down.
hard to get him down.
He's not easy to take down. I do think, though, that if Ige can mix it in well, he'll be able to get it.
He
Because
should
you
be able to
also
get
have to
some-
remember, even though Ige is known as a submission guy, he also has 6 decision wins.
Yeah.
And that decision wins is actually one more than he has submission wins.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not a guy that's going to tire out. He's going to keep pressure on you. Being a D3 wrestler, he's going to be looking to take it down himself.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you get those elite wrestlers, you start to see a stand-up battle if it gets negated there.
Yeah. That's kind of
we'll
where
see.
I came in with my pick, is I think that Ige's key to victory in this one is going to be to try to get this to the ground, where I think he has the clear advantage.
Yep.
It's just going to be really, really hard to do so. And I think that Kattar's going to be able to defend enough takedowns to the point where we're going to get to the 3rd round. And in that 3rd round, I think you're going to see Kattar starting to land a lot more. And I think Kattar's going to win a knockout
So
in round 3.
you're thinking it's going to be close in the first 2, and he's going to turn it up in round 3 and finish him?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that Kattar has the advantage as far as experience goes and as far as the tough fights go. But I had a hard time picking against Danny.
Dude, it is hard. It was a hard pick.
I mean, when you're coming out here and you're just submitting people left and right, and you're on a 6-fight win streak, it's hard for me to say, 5 submission wins. It's hard for me to pick against that because I have a feeling it's going to the ground. And when it goes to the ground, I have a feeling he's going to be able to control that situation. He might not submit him.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling he's going to be able to control it, and he's going to add another decision win. Because if I remember right, in his UFC debut, or not in his UFC debut, but in his UFC run, most of his fights are by decision. Most of his submission wins came prior.
4 decisions, 1 submission, 1 TKO.
Oh yeah, you got it up right there. So
But
yeah, so I have a feeling my pick is Dan Ige by decision. I just think it's going to go to the ground, and I think he's going to control the ground game.
Yeah, man, it's very possible. I mean, he beat one of the better stand-up guys in Edson Barboza in a fight like that. Yeah. And Mirsad Bektic was actually out-wrestled him in that fight, and he still beat Mirsad in that fight. So, I mean, it's highly possible. I think, and both those fights were only 3-round fights.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, it might even go.
Well,
into
it's
the
a
4th.
5-round fight. So
this is going to be a 5-round. That's what I'm saying.
True. You got to take
so
that.
it could go into the 4th, but
I'm still going with my decision.
oh yeah, I've got the knockout round 3. Calvin Kattar, baby, let's go.
Hey, this is going to be good because this is going to separate us some in our challenges that we have going on. Right?
You might be able to catch up to me in the pick percentage.
But I'm above you in our individual for the last 2.
Yeah. So
I mean, technically, if you really want to look at it, the last 4, I'm ahead of you in 3 of them.
Are you in 3?
Yeah, because I got 17th, and then I did really terrible, and then I beat you in the last 2.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you only beat me in that 17th one because I don't think I took a challenge in the other one.
No, you beat me. We got it up. But anyway, let's wrap this up real quick, and then we'll look at that. This has been awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been another great pick'em show, guys. Clearly,
it's going to be an exciting night Wednesday.
Yeah, clearly on this card, Jake and I are opposites on almost everything but maybe 2 fights.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where do you guys stand? Let us know in the comments what you guys think.
Join our group. Tapology.com. Look for Crushing Cans Podcast. We'll also poke the link.
We're not going to poke anything, but we'll post a link.
Post the link. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We can't be getting drunk already.
Right.
That's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Hey. But all right, man. Thanks for all you can crushers out there. You're watching the Crushing Cans Podcast Pick'em Show.
Let's crush these cans.